Yo, what's going on guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's I am Bertrude, and today we're going to be carrying on with our 50 build showcase series. That's my channel icon. Come on down, maybe consider subscribing if you're not already subscribed. Here's all my builds. I've got about 48 builds, and I'm showing them all in this new series. I'm bunching a few of the same types of build together to showcase the variation that you can get within one type of build. Today we're going to be looking at all of my fire type builds, so you guys just sit back, relax, get yourselves a cup of tea and enjoy the video. So welcome back to the channel guys, I hope you're all having an awesome day. We're carrying on with our 50 build showcase series, and today we're looking at my fire builds. There's some really good builds in this one, but first off, before we start talking about the builds, yes guys, we have had a new trailer for the DLC. Come on baby, we had that awesome looking story trailer. I cannot wait for the DLC. I'm absolutely buzzing my little testes off. My testes are throbbing with the thought of the DLC. You know what I'm saying, I'm excited. I'm just really excited for the DLC. I'm not doing a reaction showcase video or anything like that. I'm not reacting to the trailer. Everyone's done a reaction video and everyone's just saying the same things. It's going to be awesome, but I don't need to react to it. Everyone knows I'm giddy. Everyone's giddy. It's going to be epic. It's going to be absolutely awesome. And to be honest, I'm not much of a lore guy anyway, so any kind of inputs I have about the lore is probably just going to be regurgitated from other people's views that I've seen, because I'm not too savvy when it comes to all the lore of the actual game. I know little bits, but I've said before I struggle to remember it all, so I'm just in it for the epic armour and the epic weapons and making builds of all that new stuff we're going to get. It's going to be absolutely awesome guys, I can't wait. But enough about that for now. We could talk about that for the whole video, but like I said, I'm not going to do that. Let's start taking a look at these builds. So first off, we were using, for the first build of the video, we're using the worm. You can see if you've been looking at this invasion in the background, we've started off really strong. Just managed to kill the horse there, but it's poisoned us, and our health is ticking away, and it's we die as well. So we managed to take all three of them out. It was a really sweet invasion, proper good fights in that one. But overall, the horse poisoned us. We did manage to kill him, but we died at the end as well. So on to the next invasion, and again, this is another quite strong invasion. This is a strong build, you know. This build is very strong. It's really fun. It's a fire build. We've got some incantations, but to be honest, this one is kind of focused around the weapons. My idea when I was making this build is that I wanted to use all of the fire ashes of war and put them together on a build, make something around that, and then kind of build the style of the build out from there once I put all the ashes of war on suitable weapons. And you can see the next thing to come along was the Theodorix's Magma. That was the next incantation that I knew I wanted to add to the build. We just got a really nice kill on that summon with it. And it's really good, but you know, it's one of those incantations that is really difficult to land. And initially I was using this build without Endure. You probably noticed there that I've got Endure equipped on the Cestus in my second weapon slot on my right hand, so I can Endure and I can combo that into some of my incantations. But before I had that on the build, I was trying my best to use Theodorix's Magma, and I used to get stunned out of the animation for it constantly. It was such a hard dragon incantation to land. It was almost unusable. I did get some kills with it, but you had to time it perfectly. And the answer to that, you know, that little conundrum was very simple. Just stick Endure on the build and you can poise through incoming attacks. You're going to be able to land that a lot more successfully. And it made this build a hell of a lot stronger. Like, if I didn't have Endure in this build would possibly have the rating a much lower than it is when we come to rate the build. You'll see it's quite a high ranking build, and that's all because of the help of Endure. Without Endure, it struggles. As you could see there, we used it again to use Ore Flame. That's another really good little technique on this build. Use Endure and then poise through the attacks to land a big chunk of damage with Ore Flame. We've also got some quite quirky weapons on this builder. As you could see, we was using the what are they called now? Oh, what are they called? The dragon fists, the grafted dragons. That's it. We was using the grafted dragon fist weapons. That's another weapon that's quite hard to use. Well, in terms of just a fist weapon, if you use two of them, you know, you get some nice running attacks with a fist move set. But the Ash of War is quite hard to land with that one as well. So Endure can come in handy when landing the Ash of War on those particular weapons as well. This is a level 180 build. We've got 60 vigour, 60 strength, and then 43 faith. There's a couple of builds on this showcase, this particular video, that, you know, are quite similar in stats in terms of what we actually need to make the builds work. There's a couple of builds that are strength faith based, but that's okay. You know, there's still different characters, there's still different playstyles, and another nice kill with the Ore Flame though. So let's take a look at the ratings for this build. So performance is an A. As I was just saying, if this build didn't have Endure, it would probably be, you know, something like B, B minus. It's, you know, Endure makes this build really strong. Fun factor is an A+. It's a very strong build, some good weapons, some good incantations. Fashion's a B, pretty good fashion overall. Next on the list, guys, for this video, we've got the Magma Thrower, or the Magma Slinger, whatever you want to call him. The Magmaster 3000, take your pick, but he likes to throw magma around, and he is a really fun build. He's definitely one of the more unique playstyle builds that I've created, and like I say, it's just a lot of fun. I often say with some builds that it's the type of build I could play all day and not get bored. And I don't know why that is always, you know, sometimes I put a build together and it just turns out that the playstyle of that particular build is really engaging. There's a lot going on, there's a lot to think about, and it just keeps your attention on the build and on the fights. And it's just, like I say, you know, it's the type of build I could play all day. Some builds, you know, I'm happy to just go on, do an hour's worth of invading, you know, maybe get some wins, always get a few losses, you know. I'm not going to say, oh, I do a deathless invasion run for an hour. You know, we always get a few losses, but sometimes I go on a build and I'm happy to just do an hour or so and then either just switch off or maybe go on a different game for a while, switch builds, whatever the case. But this one and a few other builds that I have made, I said it in the last video with the poison videos, the poison builds that I've made, there was quite a few on there as well. This one I could just play all day. I could play this build for hours and hours and not get bored, just want to keep on invading. It's a really cool build, and it's all based around the two spells, Magma Shot and Rolling Magma. I wanted to make a build that was completely dedicated to making these viable in invasions, because they're two tricky builds to land. Magma Shot is a very hard spell to actually land and get work out of, and Rolling Magma, you know, it's got that delayed explosion on it, so you can make it work, but if they're keyed into what's going on, if they're, you know, if they've got a few brain cells, they can often avoid it. But I wanted to make a build that makes these two spells viable. So how do I do that? First off, we get the 2 Gelmir staffs. So we're using 2 of the same staff, which is going to boost our damage on those spells because they're both, you know, the Gelmir type spells that we can get. So we're getting a nice damage buff straight away for those spells. Then all of our weapons are also equipped with Endure. So again, you know, we're using Endure to make the build strong, just like on the Worm in the first build of this video. We use that Endure, we invite the player in, and then we do a fully charged Magma shot straight to the face, and it hits for some big damage. You know, we've got the 2 Gelmir staffs. We're using the talisman that boosts, it's the Godfrey icon. We're using the Godfrey icon that's going to boost our charged spells, so that's another good bit of damage. We're using the Flame Shrouding Cracked here in our flask, and then that's going to boost the damage of our fire attacks as well. You could see the nice little 3-aimed hit with the Magma shot on this player. Really cool stuff, and it's just a fun build. Like I say, you know, it's a hell of a lot of fun. We've got a few different weapons on the build. We've got the Monk's Flame Blade, the big heavy curved sword that we started the invasion with. We've got the Morning Star hammer, and then we've got the whip that we're using in this invasion, the Thorned Whip. Now all of the weapons on this build are cold infused, and that isn't particular because I wanted a fire and ice theme. It's simply because it gets me the most damage out of these weapons. We've got 35 vigor, 25 faith, 35 vigor, 25 intelligence, and then 14 faith. Now I played around with all the different you know, scalings with the weapons, whether to do heavy or quality, magic infused, and it turned out that the cold infusion gave us the best damage return on these weapons. So I went with the cold, and it just so happened to fit the build really well because we can get frost procs on them, we can get frost procs on our enemies, and then every time we get a fire attack on them, that frost is going to reset, and then we can try and frost them again. And you know what, frost procs, it's going to do a nice chunk of damage. So there's a few different things going on. We're going to try and get some big damage with the Magma spells, and then we can also switch to our weapons and try and get some cold procs with our weapons. So you know, there's a few different things coming together with this build that makes it really fun. And for this level, rune level 40, quite strong. You know, it's quite a strong build when you add all these things together. It was strong from the off. As soon as I made it, I weren't sure how this build was going to turn out, but as soon as I started using it, you know, it was just strong from the beginning. It weren't a case of, as I did with the Worm, I put Endure on it afterwards and that made it strong. Endure was always a part of this build. It was there from the beginning because I knew that's what I was going to need to make Magma Shot viable. You could see there the horse just got a bit too confident. He separated away from his summon. He came to take us on one-on-one. Little bit of help from the PvE, but we just got a massive burst of damage with the Magma shot to finish that invasion. And this is this invasion's a great one, guys. I've got these 2 in this room, little tight room. We've got rolling magma on the build. There's only one thing to do. This is just the best way to win an invasion. Watch this. Look at the absolute chaos we're able to make in this little room with rolling magma. This is why rolling magma is such a fun spell. Big chunk of damage, go in, finish them off with the Monk's Flame Blade. What a fun invasion. Let's take a look at the ratings for this build. So performance is an A. Really strong build at this rune level. Can't really say too much negative things about it. It's really fun. Fun factor's an S, as I said a few times. I could play it all day and not get bored. The fashion is a B. Not bad fashion at all, really. I quite like the helmet we're using, and it all flows together really well. The next member of the Firestarter Squadron, guys, is Mental Merv. Now, Mental Merv's got quite a dark story that accompanies the build. He was just a humble farmer, working hard in the lands between to earn a living for him and his family. He went out to market for one day. He left his family behind. He went off to the local market to trade some livestock, get some, essential supplies for the farm. And when he came back, he was absolutely devastated to find that someone had raided his farm, killed all the rest of his livestock, burned the cattle, burned the farm, burned the lands, and they'd slaughtered his wife and son and left the burned bodies outside for him to find when he returned. He fell into a pit of despair and sadness and depression. He was in a very dark place for a long time, lied on the charred remains of his farm outside, and in the darkness, in his desperation, he called out to the frenzied flame of madness. And in his desperation, the flame answered, and it gave him a renewed strength to go out and seek justice for his fallen family. It's a really dark story, but it gives this character a hell of a lot of background and a hell of a lot of cool lore. You've probably noticed that this build uses the fingerprint shield on it as well. Now, in the lore of the character, that isn't an actual shield, that's just a massive slab of stone that he found on the remains of his farm, and he took that stone with the intentions to use it as a headstone, the headpiece for his wife and his son's shared gravesite. But the intention he set out with was to use that gravestone and soak it in as much blood as he could for his family as a fitting tribute, getting revenge on the ones that destroyed his life. He's going to soak it in the blood of his enemies and then use it as the headpiece for his wife and his son's grave. It's pretty dark stuff, but like I said, it makes invading with this build so much more fun because I've always got those intentions in the back of my mind. I've always got this character's lore in the back of my mind. I've always got what he went through, what he's dealing with mentally, do you know what I mean? He's a very kind of deranged character. He's been possessed by the frenzied flame of madness, and he's just out on a complete warpath to get revenge for those that, destroyed his world, basically. So why is this build in the Fire Squadron? Well, we're using not all of them, but we're using most of the madness incantations, and a lot of those do fire damage. But then we've also got the fingerprint shield and our two weapons fire infused as well. So we're doing fire damage with our weapons, so it definitely fits in the fire category. This build's currently sitting at level 165, and again it's pretty much just a strength faith build. We've got 65 vigor, we're going with 60 strength, and then we've got 33 faith. So it's mainly a strength build. The fingerprint shield requires a lot of strength. So yeah, it's minimum, pretty much minimum faith investment for our spells, and then we're just loading up on the strength to use the shield. In terms of our weapons, we've got the Celebrant's Cleaver and the Arumi Whip, as I said, fire infused, and those are decent weapons, but this build could be made a hell of a lot stronger if I did decide to use some different weapons. Say if I used a Vike Spear on this one, if I just tweaked my stats slightly in order to use a Vike Spear, this build would be an absolute nightmare to deal with. Even if I got, I don't know, if I put a straight sword, if I put a great sword on it, or a big axe, something that was doing a lot more damage outright than the two weapons that I'm using, this build would go from really good into an absolute monstrosity. It has the potential to be a ridiculously strong build, but that isn't the character for the build. He's using the specific weapons he is for a reason. It fits his character as a farmer, and I don't want him using weapons that don't suit the lore and the background of this character. So we're using a humble machete and a humble whip, and we're making use of the kit the best we can. Like I said, I could easily make this build into an absolute monstrosity if I wanted to, but the character is more important than it being ultra strong. So let's take a look at the ratings. So performance is a B. As I said, this could easily be an S tier build, but I don't want it to overshine the character, He's using the specific weapons he is for a reason. Fun factor, it's an A+, really fun build, and fashion is an absolute S tier build. Look at the state of it, so cool. And finally guys, for the last build of the video, we're looking at the flame scale. This is one of the first builds I actually ever made. I think it's in the first 4 or 5 builds that I ever made on my main account. So I've got quite a lot of hours on this build. Again, it's a really fun one, and again it's pretty much just a strength faith build. It's level 185, we've got 60 vigour, and then we're going with 60 faith and 60 strength, so equal amounts of strength and faith on this one. As I said, you know, it's a really strong build, this one. It's pretty much just a pyro powerhouse. It's a proper tanky boy. I'm not sure what our poise is altogether. It's not up there in the 90s. I think it might be around 80 poise or something like this on this build, but overall we've got some good defences and we are working with a decent bit of poise for the weapons that we're using. As you can see, we've got the, I believe it's called the Magma Maker's Curve Sword, is it? The big curve sword that we're using there. Such an awesome weapon. I absolutely love this curve sword. I've used it for a long time on this build, and I just think it's massively underrated. Besides looking super cool, the Ash of War on it is devastating. If you land that Ash of War on someone, it's pretty much game over. It's pretty much a done deal. It's super strong and it absolutely nukes people. And I mean, just look at it. Just look at the weapon. It is so cool, so underrated. You don't see too much of it, and I don't understand why for the life of me. But yeah, really strong stuff. We've got a good few selection of incantations on this build as well. We've got the Catch Flame, they're always useful. We've got Burn or Flame, the big pillars of fire that come up. We've got Giant's Flame Take, the good old reliable massive throwable that you can fire out. And then we've got Flame of the Fell God, which is super stylish, and if you catch someone in a combo where you launch that thing up in the air, it's like a massive delayed nuclear explosion. It's often devastating as well, so yeah, just really strong stuff. As you could see in that invasion there as well, we managed to get a kill on the horse. We switched up to our little curve swords, our flame curve swords. I don't know the official name. Again, I've got an awful memory, guys. I'm just calling them my little flamed curve swords, innit? That'll do. You all know what I mean. They're really strong, and it's really good to have them in my second weapon slots when I'm chasing someone down, because these two bigger weapons that we're using, you know, they're not the best for chase down. So, you know, using something like Catch Flame or these two little magma swords, that might be what they're called actually, magma swords. Is that it? I don't know. I'd have to check, but you know what I'm saying. It's just good for the chase down because they're fast weapons. This is the other main weapon that we've got on the build. It is called the what's it called? The Cranial Vessel Candle Stand. That's it. The big boy candle stand that we've got here. Again, this is a great weapon, and we don't see too much of it. I always talk about how I absolutely love using the great hammers and the great axes in this game. Really love using those weapon types. So this fits me, it suits me down to the ground, this particular weapon. And like the other weapon on this build, the curved sword, the Ash of War and this one is an absolute beast. If you land that Ash of War on someone, it's got incredible hyper armor. If someone gets too close for you and you manage to land that Ash of War, it's game over, guys. It's game over. The amount of damage that that thing does is stupid. Really strong stuff. It's just a fun build, this one. You know, this is I talk about builds being fun and being able to play them all day. This is kind of one of those builds. I always have a lot of fun on this build. And just to boot things as well as that, you know, just to top it off, a little cherry on the cake, it's just really strong. It's really quite, I don't want to say easy, you know, nothing's easy at higher levels, you know, everyone's doing a lot of damage. We do take quite a few losses on this build, you know. I take a good amount of losses on all my builds. I'm not going to pretend that, you know, a build is unbeaten or anything like that, but it's very strong, it does a lot of damage, and it makes invading fun, and we do get a good percentage of wins. So that's it, guys. Let's take a look at the rating for the last build in today's showcase. So the flame scale performance, it's going to get an S just because it's pumping out that much damage. It's that much of a tank. It's a good build. Fun factor is A+. You know, you're winning invasions, you're going to have fun. Fashion, B+. You know, not the best fashion in the world, but I think it really suits it. It looks pretty gnarly. Yeah, good build. And that's it, guys. That's the video. I hope you've enjoyed looking at the fire builds today. You lot look after yourselves, take it easy, and I'll see you all in the next 50 build showcase video. See you soon, guys.